Woman of Culture 365 presents The Mia Almond Show, hosted by yours truly, Coach Mia, a certified master life coach, health advocate, self-empowerment educator who's sharing an in-depth conversation on how to master self, important issues that affect our mental wellness, health and wellness tips, to embracing and celebrating our cultural heritage, and much more. And now, here's Coach Mia. Welcome back to the Mia Almond Show on Glow 365. Thank you all for tuning in. Today's show is hosted by Coach Dawn Hewitt, a certified holistic coach, Coach Sophie G, a certified life purpose, and forgiveness coach, and our guest host is Leonard Burge, a soul therapist, a psycho-spiritual coach, and holistic educator, along with myself. Hello, Glow team.
Hi.
Hi,
Welcome.
everyone.
Good to see you all.
Likewise, my brother.
Yes, Glow team. I'm glad to have you all back again for another amazing show. But folks, I just want to remind you that the following show is intended only for mature audience. So viewers' discretion is advised. Now, when it comes to balancing love in a relationship, sex, and wellness, it can be very challenging, but it is essential for our happiness. It's important to prioritize that balance by creating health boundaries, make room for disagreements and understanding, focus on encouraging yourself and your partner, have emotional check ins, establish some date nights, focus on your health, and stop looking for perfection in yourself and in your relationship. Also, maintain mental wellness with daily self care regimens. Now, let's take a quick break, but stay tuned. When we return, we're going to talk about the major factors that cause stressors and strains in a relationship today, things you need to be aware of. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome. My name is Ronnie Walker. Allow me to introduce you to the MrRelationshipManCave.com website. Listen, gentlemen, today is not the day to show up halfway for yourself and for the woman you aim to please. Nutrition and mental health are important to fully experience a healthy and exceptional relationship. As a man, we want to make sure we have what is needed to start and finish strong. So go to www.MrRelationshipManCave.com and explore the possibilities.
Okay. Come out your cave and go into that cave. Huh? Welcome back. As a soul therapist, I'm confronted daily with the challenge of helping individual persons and couples psychologically in a world riddled with psychosocial pathology. And it's getting worse. As we usher into the second month of this new year, it's not without apprehension as we're knee deep in disease and death in the midst of a global pandemic, struggles over vaccine mandates and passports, misinformation and suppression of truth, economic insecurity and inequities, voter suppression and insurrection, environmental catastrophes, police community tensions, and an epidemic of xenophobia, that is, suppression of anyone considered to be the other. Now, many psychologists and counselors, myself included, report that this has placed a great strain on marriages and relationships between significant others. To cope with these trying times, couples are struggling to discover, nurture, or rekindle love, intimacy, and emotional fulfillment within self and in their unions. Couples are also striving to enhance the lifestyles of wellness, recognizing that this is what is needed to strengthen their personal health and well-being, the love bonds in their relationships, and their ability to cope and succeed in society. Sophie?
Yes, it is. That's the type of society we're living in right now. And you know what? With all that being said, today's show we're going to be having a really special guest who's going to be jumping in, and she's going to be back here with us. She's been here with us before, not long ago, where she shared her expertise. She is Dr. Suzanne Kaye from Austin, Texas. So we're going to be talking to her today. She's a sexologist. She's a sex educator. She specializes in intimacy, coaching, surrogate partnership. She's also the producer of Human Sexuality and co-founder of the Institute of Mind, Body, and Therapy. We're looking forward to talking with her. She's going to be jumping on any moment now, and we just can't wait to hear all the great stuff that she has to say. Back at you.
Well, okay. Well, you know, there's we realize that I've heard you before talk about the resolve that it takes to go into this new year and push forward, and you've spoken about mastering a wellness routine, making it a priority, balancing the nurturing our body, mind, and soul.
Mhm.
However, sometimes the elephant in the room is the question of what role sex and love plays in this process.
Mhm.
Of course, that's what Dr. Kaye is here to talk about. Therefore, that is the subject of today's show, specifically self-love in relationship to loving others, sex and intimacy in relationship to love, and the role of wellness lifestyles and habits in relationship to what you call forever love.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, of course, as you said, our special guest is Dr. Kaye. So, Sophie, where should we start?
I think we should start by introducing our special guest right about now. We're going to be talking about self-love, sex, intimacy, and wellness, as you said. But I think let's just jump right into it and get a little bit more understanding about exactly what Dr. Kaye thinks with her 30 years experience, what exactly the importance is of based on her experience of being in the field as a sexologist. I think we should just jump right into it.
Yes, Coach Sophie G, let's jump right into the conversation. Let me start by saying, like lovers, we know that all sexologists are not the same. Dr. Kaye, what makes what you do and how you do it different from conventional sex therapy?
Well, thank you for jumping right in. Let me tell you and your listeners what does make our mission. It's a mission for me. It's not my work. The difference is that we incorporate what I have come to call the neck up piece of who we are, along with the neck down. Now, when I started in the mid 80s, wanting to bring touch therapy to the psychotherapy office, it was just totally unheard of. But we did begin in Wayne, Pennsylvania, putting hands on people that were coming in for neck up issues. And as we see today, integrative medicine is on board. We know you have to treat the whole body. You can't just treat sections of it. And that's now what we're riding on the coattails of the medical field, doing integrative psychotherapy.
Well, is it not true, Dr. Kaye, that some people find that somewhat controversial, this whole touch thing? And how effective has it been in your practice?
Oh, well, I have 30 years of stories I could tell you. In fact, I've written a book about it, so that will be available within the next few weeks, I think. What I continued to stand for throughout all those decades of people looking at me sideways, some people trusting me, some people opening up to the ancient wisdom of how do we treat the mind, body, and the soul. It's all connected. And so it's been an interesting journey of people who have embraced me and kept me going. People would show up and fall off and show up and fall off, show up and fall off, because we were so controversial. But now I'm getting calls from folks from way back because I've been around a long time.
Thank you.
Excellent. Dr. Kaye, first of all, congratulations on your book. And when it comes to self-love in relationships, to what extent have you found that people tend to love someone else more than they love themselves? And is that a healthy or effective or sustainable thing?
It's certainly what we're told or taught, that you should love others and take care of others almost before yourself. That would be selfish if you took care of yourself first. My program begins with what I call you with you, because that is where it starts. You can't give away what you don't have for yourself. So it is taking a look at what I call plain damn you. We take what was your nurturing and your biology. What did you come in with, and what did you get as a young person? Things that you had no say or control over. But then there's another piece that I call plain damn you, who is you with you, seeking inside of your nature and your nurture what fits and what doesn't fit, and picking and choosing, so that you are aiming towards what Maslow's psychology theory is, self-actualized adult. And that's who you want to bring to a relationship, as a healthy self-actualized adult.
You know, it reminds me, Dr. Kaye, of being on an airplane when the oxygen mask comes down, and what do they tell you?
Yes, exactly.
Put yours on first, because if you try to help other people and you don't have yours on, you won't be able to.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, there's actually an old book by Dr. Martin, a song that goes, "You're nobody." It's like nobody. You're nobody till somebody loves you.
Yeah.
And with all that being said before, you know, what our brother Lenny just said and what you just said about putting on your oxygen mask first, it is so important, because self-love is so such an important and imperative aspect of really knowing how to love. You know, and I think it's important that we remember that. And I think, you know, I know we're going to be touching a very, well, I hope that we'll be touching a very important aspect of that in regards to self-love, which is going to come up later on in the show, in regards to, I'm going to be asking you your opinion on how it is to really self-love physically, because we do know that there are actually some controversial differences when it comes to morality in the field. And we're going to be asking you later on in regards to this. What's your take on self-love physically, morally, as a professional sexologist, in regards to masturbating as well as excess
So
sex?
Dr. Kaye, do you find that there are people who come to you who actually believe that you are nobody till somebody loves you, as Sophie was pointing out?
Um, I don't know that somebody's used those actual words, but their behaviors, and that they're in their 30s, 40s, or 50s and have never been with a partner, says to me that they got those messages somehow, that they are not worthy of love, or that no one could love them. So they feel like they're nobody. Nobody
Okay.
loves them.
Mhm.
Dr. K, often we hear that true love is unconditional. However, we are also told we must set minimum standards for acceptable treatment by others. For example, not being abused. In your view, based on your experience, what is unconditional love?
So I just want to back up one second, Sophie, and answer your question about how I teach or feel about self-pleasuring.
Mm-hmm.
And I want folks to know that it is absolutely the healthiest connection and relationship you can have with yourself. Because when we come in with guilt or shame or the shoulds around how we are with our own bodies, how can we take something that we don't understand or we think is dirty or something's wrong with it, that how do you take that to a partner or lover? So I absolutely agree with knowing your body in all the ways that are available. And that does lead to, how do I feel about unconditional love? I don't agree. I've worked with too many survivors. I've worked with people who are in situations where they're told they obey their man or their partner, and lots of things happen because we're taught that it's unconditional love, that you're to continue to stand for that relationship, or stand for um, the hope that if you stay, things will work out. And so I teach communication around conditions. People have to share where their boundaries are, and then we negotiate them. There's a dance between all the way over here to the negative, all the way over here to the positive, and there's a dance that can happen in the middle that is where health lies.
Well said.
So, is it not true, Dr. K, that there are some who define unconditional love as love with no strings, and not necessarily the case that you have to put up with abuse? But if your loving has strings, when it doesn't go your way, now you don't love them anymore.
Well, again, there comes the hardest thing for people to do, is sit down and communicate. Communication is our largest sex organ, in my opinion. If you can talk about sex, you can talk about anything. I say sex and money, those are the two reasons people get divorced. In my world, it's mostly around sex. So it is standing for yourself, and yet being in a relationship, just like if you were in a business partnership, sometimes there's negotiating tables, right? They meet for days on end and negotiate till they come to agreements. We don't necessarily have that as a tool. And when couples come to us, I'll tell them, we're going to build you a toolbox. And in that toolbox is going to be the foundation of verbal communication and physical communication.
Dr. K, in terms of that communication, often there's pressure on people to say, I love you. And we suspect that some people are in love with the idea of being in love. But I also suspect that many of your clients, they profess to be in love, yet they're dealing with dysfunction in their relationships. And how does that relate to having great sex when there's the possibility of dysfunction in the relationships of people who profess to be in love?
Yeah. It's a juggling act, and it's a communication barrier that we have to overcome. When people say, I love him so much, I do, but I don't want to have sex anymore. And so it is true that men are wired differently about what sex means. And a lot of men feel that if you reject them and you don't want to have sex, it's because you don't love them. And so it is a sorting through, and again, finding the middle road. Okay, so we can't do this, but how about we do this? And that's where the negotiation comes in, and people say, well, that's not sexy. I don't want to have to negotiate. And I say, do you remember when you were dating, and what was all the negotiation went on about what night you want to go out, what time, where do you want to go, what do you want to have for dinner, when should I pick you up, right? It was all negotiation. And they think once you're married, now you're supposed to read each other's minds, and it's all supposed to fall into place. And so we start back in the beginning and teach skills that are both verbal and physical.
It's interesting because you're saying that because, going back to the last time you were here with us, you were talking about the 5 love languages and the importance of communicating, because you taught us you enlightened us as to the 5 different ways that we actually show love. Some are physical, some are words of aspiration, so some are physical touch, some happens to do with communicating, words of affirmation, quality time, and all of that. And I think if we remember that, and I'm sure, if you didn't watch it before, you can go back and watch that show because it was a really awesome show. Then you will realize that, especially now being this season of love, heart, month in so many ways, Valentine's month, day coming up, the wellness of taking care of our heart, which contributes to our better soul and mind, that if we really know how to communicate with our loved one, we are able to identify when they're actually trying to speak love to us. And sometimes trying to speak love to us means we need to be still or touch more, or communicate more, or just spend a little bit more quality time in areas that the other person can actually feel that, and know that that's what you're doing, as opposed to rejecting, but you're actually trying to show them how to love you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And for me, I teach clients too that love spelled backwards is evolve. And so it is an evolution and it changes. It's not going to be the same as when you were dating or when you were first married or after the kids and now menopause and, whatever all those factors are that has us having to continue to negotiate and evaluate and find what our needs, wants, and desires, and how we can take care of the relationship by taking care of ourselves and each other.
You had mentioned about menopause, Dr. Kaye. Some people feel that it's not possible for women to have a healthy sex life after menopause. They think sex is only up to an age. Sorry, I have to laugh about that one. But anyway, do you find that to be true?
What define healthy?
I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, well, because it's a broad term. It's a huge word. Healthy doesn't mean because their vaginal dryness is in the way. Does it mean that they really now, without hormones on board, are not interested in being orgastic? Maybe they just want to play and do other things and don't have to have an orgasm. We're so focused on orgasm because of the underpinning of sex is for procreational purposes only, that everybody has to have an orgasm. Well, as we age, so things don't work like they used to. But does that mean we throw everything out when touch is our most basic need? When we're born, all of our touch nerve endings are in place. As we age out and until the time of death, our nerve endings in our skin never changes. So it's about touch. It isn't just about, I hope I can say this, pelvises banging together.
When you mention touch, it reminds me of intimacy. So before we continue, let's and get into that, let's take a quick break and look at another one of our master coaches. And when we return, we're going to examine the role of intimacy in sex and love.
Hey, it's your girl, Coach Lady Mia, inviting you to check out some shows on Glow 365 TV, starting with yours truly, The Mia Allman Show, Holistic Health Show with Coach Dawn, Sisters of Faith with Coach Lady Q, and The Sophie G Show with Coach Sophie G. Streaming on YouTube at Glow 365 TV shows every Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, rebroadcast on Caribbean Rhythms Radio online at crrnetworkinc.com every Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
The Jamaican American Association of Central Florida invites you to join us as we celebrate Caribbean American Heritage Month on Sunday, June 11th from 4 till 6 p.m. at the Silver Star Christian Church, 7510 Silver Star Road, Orlando, Florida. There will be refreshments, music, entertainment, prizes, and lots of fun. If you have a special talent and would like to take part in our talent contest, please complete the form on jaaocf.com. Call 407 292 3719, 407 486 5001, or 917 463 9496 for additional information. Best of all, admission is free and open to everyone. Please consider becoming a sponsor or a donor by visiting jaaocf.com to benefit our efforts to support and to build stronger communities, both locally and internationally. Oh, yeah. I'll be down by the river.
Dr. Kaye, I understand that in your practice, you find that many people don't realize the difference between sex and real intimacy. In your view, is there a difference? What is the difference and the value of each? And how can people work together to experience more intimacy?
Yeah, again, I think mentioned that for me, our communication is our largest sex organ. Are we able to talk about what we like, what we don't like, plan date nights together, hear the other person's concerns or desires? And so for me, sharing on those kinds of levels is into me see. And that's what intimacy is. In our culture, we roll everything into meaning pelvises banging together. It's like intimacy, making love, having sex, getting it on, whatever all those terms are. And we roll it into 10% of our body activity. We forget about all the other 90%, where all the juice is. Mm-hmm. And I tell people when we're looking to find where is that place where we can do eye gazing, where we can sit and look in each other's eyes without laughing or giggling, but really get into each other's eyes, or sit back to back with their arms hooked together and say 5 things they love or appreciate about their partner. There's a song by Dan Hill. Sometimes when we touch, the honesty's too much, and I have to hide my eyes and cry. Because it's that when we have that deep intimacy, it's what we all really want. But I don't know, we've lost it or demonized it, or it's been replaced because we've been overtaken. When anything is suppressed, it pushes out in ways that are not good or healthy for us. And that's what I think has happened with our sexuality. It has been pushed down. We don't educate our children. We talk about bodies with giggles and silliness. And so we have created generations of folks who do not have a healthy relationship with their bodies and are able to share safely, like intimacy, where the depth of intimacy is.
We talked about it earlier. It was mentioned, things has changed so much. We forget how to talk. We forgot how to relate to people, and that exercise that you just mentioned about, even being behind each other and just counting out 5 things that we like or dislike about each other. That's what you relate to as the talk. What are some of the things you think we should really and truly, I know you just touched on, but what are some other things you think we should really talk about? And how can we go about really and truly revealing it? And what should we keep private to create that kind of intimacy? Any advice you could give us there?
I don't know that there's a carte blanche answer for your question. We're all so complex. The stories I've heard, what children have survived through their childhoods and beyond. Intimacy is know me. Give me a safe place where I can share my fears, where I can share my needs, wants, and desires. And I've worked with people that got some very interesting fetishes, for lack of a better word, that they attained because of their upbringing or what happened to them as children. We get locked in those first 5 years. We're little computers. We're downloading everything through our senses, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we feel. We don't have cognition on board till we're like, 5, 6, 7 years old. And so we've already started to generate and create who we are inside of the you with you. And if we don't have permission to explore it or understand it or share it, it can put in front of me a 55-year-old virgin who can't be touched because his mother was very nervous with him as a baby. And so he's very ticklish for anybody to touch him.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the stories, I don't know if I'm answering your question, except that, we're all so complex and unique.
You are. I think it's fair to say that the necessity to have these kind of open conversations in the beginning of getting to know each other, as opposed to waiting until knowing that we have our people have these kind of feelings, these kind of required feelings to be able to feel whole in a relationship. That we have these conversations early, as opposed to waiting until 5 years down the line when it comes up, or you feel like you have to share it. And based upon your profession, do you think that if this is done or practiced at an earlier time, that it prevents infidelity, people stepping out or trying to explore because of fear of being ridiculed or not wanting to feel shunned or shut down by their partner?
Yes. I mean, it is endless what the damage or the effects are. And as you were speaking, I was listening with a different ear about education and permission.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to start early with children and teach them the names of their body parts and teach them to respect their own bodies and to make sure other people respect their bodies, starting from babyhood on, people ask me, when do you start talking about sex or bodies? I said, right from the beginning. You don't teach them incorrect language for their body parts.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes from there to how we are raised with a feeling of shame or disconnect. And so it starts early with education.
So it sounds like that may be one of the
Hmm.
reasons that
Interesting.
people find it so difficult to talk about sex.
Uh,
Yeah, what I'm saying is that with all of those hangups, a lot of them come from our upbringing, and it becomes much more difficult to talk about sex. And we live in a society where as much sex as there is that sells everything, it seems to be a taboo to actually talk about it. No, just do it. Uh, Dawn, I've heard you talk about the selling of sex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this ties in with the whole the last few questions as far as like the educational aspect of it. Like, how can we be, as Len was alluding to, how can we be living in a time when sex is used to sell everything, but yet at the same time it's still taboo. It's still a taboo subject for so many people. And how does this type of dichotomy affect your work, Dr. Kaye?
It affects me because when folks come to me and they have been involved in trafficking or a cult or some of these other negative sexuality that's being pushed out because, again, we don't embrace it. We don't honor our bodies for what they do. We didn't make this up. Somebody else created it. And so that we're pushing down something that is innately and intrinsically part of who we are. And so the self-hatred, the hurt, the negatives that all come out of, again, we're back to love yourself first. And so it's such a huge worldwide, except for some of the Scandinavian countries, they've got some other good stuff going on. But the fact that we're so scared of bodies, and we're here, we came here to be in the experience of being in a body. And, we didn't make it up that the clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings. I mean, right? So who do we blame and say this is a test to see if you'll give in? When we say educate your kids about drugs so they don't do them, we say don't talk to your kids about sex or they'll do it.
Well, the truth be told, in spite of all these taboos about sex, the most popular sites on the internet are sites dealing with pornography.
Yeah.
And so the question is, to what extent does this impact love and sex, or dysfunction of sex, dysfunction of relationships, and the clients that you serve?
Yeah. Again, it's that thing that what we push down, what we suppress is going to push out in negative behaviors. And that's what's happening. When I have a client in front of me whose parents educated them about their bodies, I mean, it's such a phenomenon, and the therapy is totally different. That we have to start at the beginning of accepting themselves from the neck down. But when we have folks that have come in and they had a healthy parenting opportunity where they were taught their body parts and taught how to stay safe, and they could come home and tell their mom, hey, teacher so-and-so touched my behind today. Otherwise we bury it, we suppress it, and it just is pushing out into all this negativity.
Wow. Today we're living in a society that we have, it's supposed to be the melting pot. But yet still we find we're living in what would be considered like the alphabetical soup. Because of the different gender identifications that are now current in our world. And I mean this in a very affectionate way, where people want to be regarded or still have exclusive relationships and feel loved by who they are and who they feel and how they just to have fulfilling ability and a healthy long-term relationship. It plays and the ability to create intimacy in couples, because they're misunderstood or persons in the society. What exactly is colorism, and what role do you think you have or have it found that it plays right now on the ability for couples to feel be able to sustain a healthy relationship?
Well, there's that word again, exactly. We're just all so different. I mean, it can be to the point where a partner has a fetish that they've never been able to disclose, and be able to tell their partner about this fetish and figure out, can they figure it out together and work on it together. I'm sorry to sound vague, but there's just as many people as there's stories, and what people are looking for. We're raised that you're supposed to have this certain kind of connection or relationship, or there's so many supposed tos around being a successful woman or being a successful man or being a successful, you use the term healthy marriage or relationship. And some people would think that what two other people are doing together is not healthy, but for them it is. So that's why my book is Am I Normal If? Because we don't fit in that box called normal. And that box called normal changes. But yet we're so bent on either politically or religiously or ageism, however we put people in boxes.
So, Sophie, you did mention panamorism. What exactly is that, panamorism?
Panerotica is the love of everything. Like you turn on to just about everything.
A short break first. And when we return, we will look a little more at this question of whether sexual pleasure is compatibility with not just wellness, but spirituality. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is your girl Sophie G, your real sister from the Sophie G Show, and I am giving a shout out to KUO Magazine. They're dedicated to promoting a greater level of wellness in all of us. Yes, they bring out that glow. Caribbean Under One magazine features different cultures and personalities of both men and women from within our own communities, sharing biographies and their personal stories and challenges, even their secrets as to how they overcame the toughest obstacles they faced, with the hope of inspiring others. Caribbean Under One magazine gives back, and they acknowledge by honoring the ribbon of Survivors 365 by bringing awareness to those who have overcome and struggled with chronic illnesses and conditions. They inspire. KUO encourages and reminds us all of the true importance of having that glow in all our lives, a greater level of wellness. This is your girl Sophie G, your real sister, who promises to always keep it real. For me not lie, I'm not try. And I say, get your subscription today. Just log on, tell your friends, tell your family to join in and become a member, to subscribe to KUOmagazine.com today. Check me out on the Sophie G Show. Your girl Sophie G, your real sister.
Hello and welcome. My name is Ronnie Walker. Allow me to introduce you to the MrRelationshipManCave.com website. Listen, gentlemen, today is not the day that you're a pathway for yourself and for the woman you aim to please. Nutrition and mental health are important to fully experience a healthy and exceptional relationship. As a man, we want to make sure we have what is needed to start and finish strong. So go to www.MrRelationshipManCave.com and explore the possibilities.
Okay, let's get back to this question of wellness, spirituality, and sexuality. We live in a culture where a lot of times in religious circles, there are differing opinions on what's moral, what's not moral, even though many of our preachers and teachers seem to have no problem with sex. So, Dr. Kaye, what have you found about this whole issue of sexual pleasure and spirituality? Are they compatible? Do you find that people are having differences in that area?
Well, spirituality is a big term. It's very broad. I would say folks who adhere to more of a spiritual view of creation, the Godhead, or nature, have a more open and accepting of that we are physical beings, we are sexual beings, we are spiritual beings. As far as religions go, and they're all have their different guidelines around what deems inappropriate behavior or even ungodly behavior. Why we separate out this gift that got us here and why we've demonized bodies, I think it boils down to it's a way to control us.
Mm.
That's just my experience. That's what my history tells me from books that I've read on spirituality and different religions and the Bible. I think it just boils down to a way to control us and control our bodies.
That makes a lot of sense. So, Dr. Kaye, in summary, in your opinion, what is healthy sex and love, and what role does it play in a person's overall health and well-being in body, mind, and spirit?
How much time do we have? Healthy sexuality again begins with you. Are you in tune with your body? Do you walk with it in a way that it's just you and me, buddy? You know, like, I love you, thank you. All the parts, not just the way our hair looks today, but all the parts that we were given. And so healthy sexuality is almost to the place where you're not really thinking about it. Like, this is just who I am. This is how I was designed. My creator made me this way. Again, 8,000 nerve endings, no accidents. We didn't make it up. How do we reconcile the drives that can be hurtful or damaging? Is through communication. It's not to push it under the rug or say, don't do that, or don't you come around here looking at that magazine, or, you know, these things that we do to raise the curiosity. Like, oh, I wonder why I'm not allowed to look at this. You know, so it's like I teach all my couples too, and it is with our children and with our own relationship with our body, is communication.
Does this have to do with controlling women? Would you say in this,
Yes.
the type of culture that we're in right now?
I would have to go that that's certainly a huge part of it.
But
Yeah.
also, there are a lot of people who find that they need specific substances, so to speak, in order to get it up or to get it going.
Yeah.
Drugs like Viagra, herbal aphrodisiacs, intoxicants, and then some look to certain methods like tantric yoga to make for a more satisfying, healthier sex life. In your work, in your clinic, what have you found out about people who have the need to use stimulants in order to perform sexually?
Well, it can come from a number of things. It can come from some childhood trauma or something that landed in the psyche from religions, and people have too much guilt and shame to get past it on their own. I'm not opposed to stimulants. I think if people, that's what they want to do. I have folks that come here that are fairly young, like in their early 30s, and they can't have erections without help. Mm-hmm. And we have narrowed it down to that it was early training and church and that. And he was just so stressed about, oh, I have to get away from these. This is just, I'm not supposed to be taking these. And I just said one day, I took him by the hands. I said, what if it's just okay to use the aid? And he started crying because I gave him permission to stop being so hard on himself, like the shoulds and the have tos or the healthy. What works for you with you?
Well, sometimes we need a crutch for a minute to get back to walking, and you know, uh, the real issue is that's part of a process. Sometimes I think we've sort of come to the end of the line, unless any of our co-hosts have any more questions. If not, Sophie, can you summarize in the tradition as you do? Will you give us a brief synopsis of what you feel we've learned today? Bring us on home, Sophie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the truth is, I want to say, Dr. Kaye, Suzanne Kaye, it's always a delight having you, on the show, this platform, because you give so much information and clarity as to some of the things that are important for healthy relationships, and sexually speaking, and based upon your experience in relationship, and I think what we need to remember is that in this time that we're living in. Uh, the importance of well-being. This platform is about bringing people back to a greater level of wellness, hence our name, Glow. And just remember that whatever we put into our system, our bodies, our relationships, our life is what we're going to get out. And we're gonna transfer into our relationships intimately with the people who are supposed to be closest to us. I think taking from this the relevance of remembering that no matter who we want to be identified as, no matter what alphabet number we want to be called or referred to, the first we have to, as was mentioned before, remember that self-love is so imperative to one by putting on our oxygen mask first. If we don't love ourselves, we can't love nobody else. And we can't really truly share true love if we're not able to express our true self with the persons who are supposed to be the closest to us, intimately speaking. And if we can find comfort in having being in a spiritually comfortable spot with ourselves and our creator, whoever we regard the higher being as, we can then try to find some form of a peace within oneself so that we can transfer that into any relationship that we have, intimately speaking. And I think with this being Heart Month, Valentine's Month, Heritage Month, if we can tap into what is important to us and heroes that are out there, we're seeing all over the media, social media about Black History Month. But it's not just about that. It's about those who we consider heroes. And sometimes we need to find the hero within ourselves. Mm. Try to love yourself first or self first so that we can really be somebody else's hero who's depending on receiving love from us. Martin Luther said, I have a dream, but also Marvin Gaye also said, listen, man, sometimes you gotta get a little bit of a sexual healing. And remember, to get that sexual healing, because it's so good for me. We need to remember, whenever those blue teardrops are falling, sometimes your emotional stability needs a little bit of a healing. True self, to thine own self first be true. Even if it means masturbating, as was talked about earlier, it's okay, because you gotta love yourself first to be able to share. I think this is just Sophie G talking now. Let somebody know how they can love you back. Communication is important. Talk. That exercise about being in each other's space and staring into each other's eyes is the windows to our soul, right? And if you feel shy about doing it, then hold each other by the back and yet still speak the words out loud that you want to be heard, or you want to share without a judgment-free zone. And that's what I take away from here today. Let's practice that right now. It's still the beginning of the year. We still got time. We're still practicing new resolutions. Let's start with ourselves and the ones closest to us by being patient with yourself and being patient with one another to love unconditionally. That's my take.
Coming up next month, our Glow 365 team will be launching their own weekly show with Holistic Health with Coach Dawn, Sisters of Faith, with Coach Lady Q, The Sophie G Show with Coach Sophie G, along with myself on The Mia Allman Show. In June will be a 4-part series on self-care and how it affects our mental, physical, and spiritual wellness in order to grow and evolve as a person and maintain a healthy lifestyle. You can listen live right here on crrfm.com every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I would like to thank my special guest, Dr. Susan Kaye. For more information on her or to schedule a session, please visit online at drsusankeye.com. Also, a special thank you to my GLOW team, Coach Dawn, Coach Sophie G, Leonard Burge, and you, the listeners. I'm Coach Lady Mia. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe and well. But first, let me leave you with this quote. We cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known, and when we honor the spiritual connection that can only be cultivated between two people when it exists within each one of them. We can only love others as much as we love ourselves. By Bree Brown.
Hey, this is your girl Sophie G, your real sister from the Sophie G Show, and I am giving a shout out to KUO Magazine. They're dedicated to promoting a greater level of wellness in all of us. Yes, they bring out that glow. Caribbean Under One magazine features different cultures and personalities of both men and women from within our own communities, sharing biographies and their personal stories and challenges, even their secrets as to how they overcame the toughest obstacles they faced, with the hope of inspiring others. Caribbean Under One magazine gives back, and they acknowledge by honoring the ribbon of Survivors 365 by bringing awareness to those who have overcome and struggled with chronic illnesses and conditions. They inspire. KUO encourages and reminds us all of the true importance of having that glow in all our lives, a greater level of wellness. This is your girl Sophie G, your real sister, who promises to always keep it real. For me not lie, I'm not try. And I say, get your subscription today. Just log on, tell your friends, tell your family to join in and become a member, to subscribe to KUOmagazine.com today. Check me out on the Sophie G Show. Your girl Sophie G, your real sister.
Hey, it's your girl, Coach Lady Mia, inviting you to check out some shows on Glow 365 TV, starting with yours truly, The Mia Allman Show, Holistic Health Show with Coach Dawn, Sisters of Faith with Coach Lady Q, and The Sophie G Show with Coach Sophie G. Streaming on YouTube at Glow 365 TV shows every Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, rebroadcast on Caribbean Rhythms Radio online at crrnetworkinc.com every Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.